Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Scarlett O'Hara.
I'm standing about as close as we can get to the site where that turbine used to stand. I want you to imagine 6 students sitting jam-packed in this cluster. Now, I want you to imagine 40 trying to learn math in this room. We have seen a very steady flow of traffic here in Tuscola at the Save More Pharmacy parking lot. But what I learned is they're not quick to answer any questions unless you give them your personal information in return. This group of protesters behind me has been out here for 5 hours, making their voices heard. Right here on South Neal Street near Windsor Road back there is where the suspect's car crashed last night. After leading police on a high-speed chase, they say, began with a report of a shooting. She also said members of the district's crisis team and support staff were available today here on campus for all students who needed them. That fire led to an explosion that took out the roof and overhead door. Only 23% of families responded to the survey. 85% of them echoed what staff members said. After calling the first time and saying I was a reporter, the call was declined.
Hours after that announcement, 24-year-old Tavion Davis was shot and killed near the intersection of Philo Road.
I mean, I probably inhaled like half a couch just being in the vicinity.
That's a sentence you don't hear every day.
Someone wanted to start a fire, and that's exactly what happened.
Hundreds of people crowded around a residential intersection, some with alcohol, old furniture, and lighter fluid in hand.
It was terrifying. We were all texting each other, being like, does everyone have renter's insurance?
That's because it happened just a few feet from her front lawn in a pocket of campus town known as Seniorland.
We've had people over before, but it's never been like this severe.
And no one really knows why, except that it may have been part of a farewell tradition among newly graduated U of I students.
It's kind of like the last thing all the seniors do. Then after this, we all walk to the quad, have a good time there, and kind of say our goodbyes to each other.
The University of Illinois Police Department's communications director said, quote, there was a similar instance of this last year, though maybe not quite as large.
It wasn't a good thing, but it was cool to watch at least.
UIPD said the gathering is currently under investigation and could bring serious legal consequences. So far, 6 students have been given notices to appear in court.
Luckily, I didn't get one, but I was here when they were passing them out.
Plus, they're all feeling lucky no one was hurt. Students we spoke to said it was a way to spend their last moments in Champaign together.
It was probably not the safest thing to do, but can't really do this anywhere else, so everyone's just having a good time.
And simply to dispose of items they don't need anymore.
There are all these old couches that people have, and they want to get rid of them somehow. And so they just brought them out there and set them on fire.
It was eventually extinguished by the fire department, and Champaign Public Works crews cleared the road of debris. But that didn't stop the house on that corner from receiving a notice for excessive trash and responsibility for a mess created largely by strangers.
That's why we're out here now, trying to pick it up, because we obviously don't want to get in trouble with the city. We're not troublemaker girls. We just want to be on everybody's good side.
We always start with the Star Spangled Banner, so that's what we'll start with.
The keys to Amy Zinchuk's heart weren't just the ones on her piano, but her students who play them.
And she loved them, and they loved her, just like family.
And like any family, the parents and kids of Amy Zinchuk's piano studio are taking care of each other through tragedy.
I've always been really nervous before recitals, so I am kind of nervous now. But it's going to be really hard because Amy has always been like a really special person in my life.
I worked with her for 15 years, and my daughter, Nellie, has been taking piano lessons for 6.
Zinchuk started planning this spring recital before she and her husband Mike both died on their way home to Champaign on May 1st. A massive dust storm claimed 8 lives and hospitalized several dozen after a 72-vehicle pileup on I-55.
I didn't know how to believe it, but then it was really upsetting.
But through their grief, the parents of the kids who adore Zinchuk knew the show must go on.
It's going to be difficult for the parents, so I can only imagine how difficult it is going to be for the children.
38 of Zinchuk's piano students showed up with the songs she chose.
I'm just really excited to be able to play it for her.
On the day she expected to be playing alongside them.
The only thing that might be different is she was a real stickler. She wanted her students to memorize the songs. So we're going to let the kids bring their books up just because it doesn't have to be perfect. It's not about that today.
It's about honoring Amy Zinchuk through what she loved most, her family and teaching music.
And her husband, because he did have a big part of it. every year as well.
Mike Zinchuk has been described as one of a kind and a fierce protector.
They came from very different backgrounds, but it was all about family and love. And my daughter actually said Amy was like a second mom to her.
Sometimes there are no words to describe the feeling of sudden loss, much less the deaths of two loved ones. But there will always be music. Amy Zinchuk made sure of that.
I just hope that her family knows how much we love Amy and Mike, and that this is truly a blessing that we get to do this and honor them. And I just hope everyone really enjoys it.
Obviously, it won't be the same without my teacher, but I just hope that I can keep playing it because I really enjoy playing the piano.
It's been known by admirers in Decatur for more than a century as Powers Mansion, complete with 13 rooms, 7,700 square feet, and an acre of historical significance.
I remember growing up as a little kid, I asked my parents, hey, can we go in to see that house?
Well, it's on the market, and historians like Brett Robertson say they'd be first in line to buy it for a bargain of $130,000. But you can't judge a deal by its sticker price.
If you buy it, you can't go in it till you buy it and that, so it may be in bad shape. We don't know.
That's the problem. Nobody knows, except the current occupants.
Well, I don't know what it looks like now because there's been a lot of young people living in there.
The listing was posted by County Line Realty, who hasn't answered our calls. Nonprofit History of the Heartland says they've spoken with the realtor, who says anyone who's interested would have to buy the property before checking out the inside, because the people who live there now won't let anyone in.
It's really important that the right owner be found.
Preservationists are hoping for, quote, someone with deep pockets, patience, and a tolerance for risk.
That's our hope, that the home will be restored and maintained, to the level of magnificence that it has had in the past.
Its story goes back to 1910, when the home was built by Charles Powers, member of a prominent Decatur family with even deeper roots in central Illinois business, banking, and farming. It was later bought and renovated by another influential family, the Jarvises.
I think this was the first home in Decatur that had an elevator.
And all these years later, it's still the talk of the town.
The Powers Jarvis Mansion, it plays an important part.
Documents from the county recorder's office show it's been in foreclosure since 2018. The current owners, Anthony and Ronald Grayson, bought the mansion in 2005 for $420,000.
And the prior sale was back in 1988, and they only paid $85,000 for it.
The home has seen its fair share of ups and downs, and although the state of its interior, including a ballroom on the third floor, remains a mystery, historians are waiting for the right buyer to come along and bring it back to its former glory on West Decatur Street.
I'd hate to have to pay the power bills in that mansion.
And it took until today to get an answer. Documents I obtained through the Freedom of Information Act show Carter took 8 sick days between October 15th and 28th. That's right around the time we started asking questions. Business was as usual at Monticello's City Council meeting, except for one thing. The police chief was absent again. Then, at the very end of the mayor's report, Larry Stoner slipped in 2 resignation announcements. The first was Alderwoman Tammy Sebens.
And Monticello Police Department Chief John Carter, effective immediately.
After 2 weeks of asking city officials and Carter himself, we finally have an answer. John Carter is no longer Monticello's chief of police.
I would like to thank both of them for their service to our community.
That was the only mention of Carter the entire meeting, so I brought him up to Stoner directly. Can I ask you a couple questions?
I have no comments to make at this time.
No comments regarding John Carter?
Yes.
After nearly a decade of service, his sudden departure raises questions. May I ask when he resigned?
It's a personnel issue. I don't have any comments to make.
We still want to know, why did Carter resign? Why was the city quiet when I asked why Lieutenant Terry Jones filled in for him at the last meeting?
Acting Police Chief's report, Terry.
Now we know Terry Jones is the acting chief, but we don't know why it's taken this long to clarify the matter. It started with an anonymous tip that said Carter was asked to step down mid-October and led to 7 Freedom of Information Act requests. In one of them, I asked for any and all communication on publicly or privately owned devices by City Council members Larry Stoner and/or City Administrator Terry Summers discussing John Carter. My request was denied because the FOIA officer said no records could be located. I responded Thursday saying, "You mean to tell me there has never been any communication between city officials about the Monticello Police Chief John Carter?" I have not heard back from the FOIA officer.
Anything else, Terry?
No, sir. That's all. Thank you.